Hello, hello, my lovely guardians. I first want to apologize. I think there was 2 days where I missed uploads, and I have a reason for this. I had an older channel, and for whatever reason, I was checking some email on it, and I ended up uploading the videos I created for those 2 days that are absent from this channel onto that channel. And we're gonna be going Ornn in the jungle. There's some neat new things like this little thumbs up thing if you press T. And I think T used to lock your screen, and I never liked that, ever. And now that that's something else, I'm actually, like, happy about that. Because there'd be times when you're kind of going crazy on the keyboard. You hit T, and it locks you like that, and you're, like, walking around, and it keeps on following you. And that is useful in some manner, but I'm not used to it. And it would throw me for a loop. But we're gonna work on the raptor camp, then we're gonna do red raptors, and then wolves, and these guys. And what's awesome about Ornn is we don't need to go back for our items, we can just build them. And how this game is going to progress, the Kha'zix wants to get his team ahead. Rise is late game. Malzahar is mid game. Spike. We'll have to be wary when he hits his spike, just in case he hides in a bush or something. Because that's essentially what all Malzahars do. Is they hide in bushes when they get their ultimate. Get a little more damage there. Awesome. Nice, nice. Now we're gonna want to put a word right here. Like the brush. Start knock up. Okay. So our top laner needs to be careful. Kha'zix could come on that side. Alright, now I'm gonna build my first item, get my Q. Pull it back a little bit. Alright, now that we've got 3, we can kind of secure some areas here. And there's Kha'zix. Will Kha'zix get a kill? Kha'zix jumped a little oddly. Oh, wow. That wasn't too bad. Alright, so Jinx is coming back. We're gonna build our item. Nice. Little crazy in the bot lane. But that's one thing that I think that I should, that's the lane that is, I think, the most important. Alright. Ornn is kind of like a grumpy guy. It's always like, "Marr, marr." Alright, looking at 480. I'm just gonna steal Kha'zix's farm away. Our next item in that. I don't think we can make anything happen bot lane because they're just so pushed up. I'm gonna grab our raptors here. How am I getting pinged here?
This world has potential. Needs hammering.
I'm gonna lead it up here. Right. Stealing all we can. Okay, they got the Infernal Drake, but Kha'zix is gonna be behind here in terms of experience. That's one of the things, like, if you go for an early Drake, it's possible to be worse off than you would have thought possible. Alright, we're gonna go back. We should have our full items here. Okay, there's Kha'zix. Alright, we're gonna get this item, except we're gonna get it that. Control ward, up that. So let's look at the CS. Let's see, we've got Kha'zix with 22 and me with 51. So I have double the CS that Kha'zix has right now. All right. Nicely done. Now we're gonna see if we can, we might be able to make something happen. Oh, got her. All right. Okay. That was pretty funny, actually. That was funny, man. You just have to be able to laugh at something like that coming from bot lane. Because that is just incredibly funny right there. Don't think we can pick up anything on the Jinx. Alright. Just pick up a few loose ends as far as
This world has potential.
as far as the CS goes, and then I'm gonna look to put some wards for the Lissandra. So far things are pretty even. The Rise looks like he's getting ahead of the Cho'Gath, but the Cho'Gath is... Cho'Gath is hanging in there. We're gonna build this guy. Take our E next, and we're gonna build this guy. I feel like... Alright, Kha'Zix is actually... Kha'Zix is hanging out top side. Yeah. He's trying to protect his yeah, I can't do anything about that. Okay, Lissandra is taking free damage. I am exacerbating this. Oh, dang it. Okay. Let's scan that. But yeah, but you gotta be careful, Alright. Gonna clean a little bit of this up. I didn't get a chance to knock Kha'Zix up, though. Alright. What's next on the list? Kha'Zix. Now, bot lane, they're gonna fall behind. So we're going to take Scuttles here. Now, I did screw up my ultimate there. I thought so. I don't have my ultimate up here, so... Alright, that's fine. We just took them off the dragon, which is fine. One good thing is Cho'Gath will scale into the late game. Gianna will be really helpful in the late game. But the issue is if we lose too quickly or the enemy gains too much advantage, okay. Alright, so he's just gonna get out. It's unfortunate. We should have prepared for that. That was actually pretty hilarious that Ryze was just able to walk out of that. But really, we had no one covering his exits. And I mean, that's good in a way because Ryze is a champion that I kind of forgot his abilities. So now that I've been exposed to the abilities, yeah, the Lissandra is having a tough time. Now that we've been exposed to the abilities, we can actually do something about it next time. Because he could just speed off. You can just speed off. You can just walk away, speed off, whatever you want to call it. He's just a waste of time. Ryze is just a waste of time. Which can be frustrating when laners can't handle things, and neither can you for the most part. Alright, so we're gonna go... Well, no, we won't go back yet. We're gonna ward this. Now the dialogue is coming out of my team because they're not exactly sure how to proceed. The reality is, Jinx is late game. Lucian has some spike. But unless you're like a good Lucian player, unless you're like a really good Lucian player. Alright. Can't do anything about that. The bot lane is doing nothing right now. Now I'll just walk out. All right, that's unfortunate. That was wow. That was remarkable. That distance right there. So our bot lane was doing nothing that entire time. We're gonna get some magic defense. That. You see, that kind of decision making is our bot lane. He just flashed into 4 people. Did you just flash in for a kill? 1 versus 4, Lucian. So who has the ability to save this game? I don't think anyone has the ability to save this game. Alright. We'll put that on Lissandra. But for the most part, none of our guys can carry. The Cho'Gath can't carry because he's not really a carry. The top laner, he's just so good at understanding his abilities. Alright.
I will make an axe.
Alright, we have to step out. Alright, Lissandra, yeah. So the entire team just doesn't know how to play their lanes. It's unfortunate. Step back. We'll be reporting Lucian for going AFK. Let's get some of that. All right. Yeah, all of our lanes lost essentially. Kha'zix I think was able to help a little bit, but honestly, like, or realistically, that's difficult. That's so difficult to deal with. Okay. I don't know why, I don't know why Lissandra's decided to do that. But they're really overly strong here. I'll have to flash. I can't do anything. But yeah, there's a severe skill. I don't know if it's the Janna has the skills on her team, but there's a severe like there's too much skill on the other side's team, and I don't know where the skill is on our team. Now maybe it's the matchup that certain champions aren't good versus others. The Malzahar is probably better, or probably, but we'll talk about that. So no one did good on our team. Okay. So how it goes is they had some mobility. Ornn, as Ornn, I just couldn't set things up, and then you kind of need. I feel like they need to be slowed, or they need to be occupied, or something to get Ornn's ultimate off. But they just kind of walked the other way and kind of ignored it. Our bot lane consists of Lucian and the Janna. Now that's somewhat of a strong lane. You're gonna have, I think you can out trade at earlier levels, but I understand that Rakan is a good initiate. But if Lucian does not win the early game versus the Jinx and a Rakan, you're not gonna win the game. The Rise understood the matchup versus the Cho'Gath, and all Cho'Gath was trying to do was farm. And because Rise is ranged, and Rise really knew his abilities well. Like, he knew how to combo his abilities, and he knew how much damage he could cause. And it is a lot of damage. And he knew at what length that you can use your abilities too, because his Q, I believe, because Rise got a rework. It's a long attack, longer than you realize. Malzahar also did pretty well versus Lissandra. I don't think that's a good matchup because Lissandra's abilities, I don't think you can solo Malzahar as Lissandra safely, or it's a difficult matchup essentially. So there's a combination of lack of skill with our laners, in addition to the champions that we picked that went against us even more. The Cho'Gath, I guess didn't have a chance to trade properly, and so he just got smushed. And Rise would not let him farm, I'm sure. The Malzahar 4, 0, and 5. So all their lanes did really well. And the Malzahar. Okay, so let's do a little itemization here. Knight's Vow to protect our carries, but you know what? It's not much use to protect a carry if they're dying all the time. And oh yeah, Lucian, he gave up for a little while. So we'll report him for giving up. I'm not sure, like, because it's not something like language that you can prove. But he was not exiting the base very quickly. He was just kind of hanging in there. And at that point, you know, you can report someone for giving up. And it's good to report others for doing things that are not sportsmanlike or not team-like, because it enables you, or it makes you realize that those actions are wrong and you shouldn't do those actions. You know, for me in the past, you're upset with the situation, you're upset at somebody, you're upset in general. You're not upset at anybody because there's no one there to be upset. Once the game's over, this person is gone. And for the most part, everyone like was chillax. And I would rather lose a game where people are not upset or emotional or you having to babysit them than rather win a game where people are upset and using inappropriate language and all this other stuff. I would rather lose a game. But from, you know, what I kind of noticed here is even if I had a champion like Vi who can really try to take care of people early, we wouldn't have won that because of our entire team's lack of skill. They have to, like, you have to be aware of certain things as laners, and when all your lanes do bad, you know, there's only so much I could do as like a Vi or something like that, where you pick a champion to carry, but you can't carry an entire team. You try to secure things and all that other stuff. One of the things I thought that was interesting is the Kha'zix. I think he wasn't having any luck early on, or maybe he was. That he went for dragon, like he went for a Drake, and the issue there was their bot lane had helped them with a Drake, but that was because they were pushing Lucian back. They were pushing him back, and once you fight with somebody, you can kind of gauge what you can do. So after they did dragon, there was no punishment for it. There's no, oh, try to push the lane or try to get some damage of the turret or something like that. There wasn't a lot of punishment for that. Because doing a dragon that early is dangerous because you open yourself, you make yourself vulnerable to a counterattack. But our bot lane, it just wasn't paying attention to those things. And I would like to say I can pay attention to everything on the map, but I was actually surprised at the Drake. But bot lane's right there. If bot lane is like, what's up? They haven't gone back, or they haven't been back yet. Maybe we should war dragon. But that's a tough call as far as realizing that they're doing dragon, because it is so risky. So yeah, I went Cinder Hulk, and I should have gotten, you know, more magic damage earlier. This Knight's Vow is totally useless, and this item is only useful on a carry that knows the game. So don't get Knight's Vow if none of your carries can do anything. Just try to get items that are gonna help you survive. And this would have been an easy item, but I could have had this item as my second item. I could have already had the full build of this item. The Cho'Gath went health and mana and some ability power, but he wasn't able to trade with the Rise at all. So I'm thinking that he should have gone for the item as well as me, the magic resist over the damage and the health. You're gonna get, well, you get more health from this, but you're gonna get more magic resistant when you finish your items that build from Spectre's Cowl. Rod of Ages is if you have it's more offensive, so if you think you're gonna do well in your lane, but he did not do well in his lane, so he should have critiqued his build to match the fact that he's gonna take a lot of damage from the Rise. And he also could have communicated that I have no way of attacking Rise, or I don't know how to trade with Rise, so I need some help. But like I said, I don't think even that would help. If I would have charged in with my Vi or something like that and would have got a kill on Rise, I have a distinct feeling that Cho'Gath would still die. He would still die in lane, and I can't be everywhere at once. And so all our lanes were losing. All our lanes had a bad sense, or maybe a bad matchup based on champion. That Lucian's not meta. And when you lose as a Lucian meta, like Janna's meta, and Janna actually has 2 kills. So she was doing just as well as the Lucian as the ADC. The Janna should outtrade the Jinx, but only early on. And that's where Lucian and Janna have to, you know, step it up. But for whatever reason, they did not make use of the fact. And if you're playing Lucian in this meta and you don't realize that, you're gonna lose the game. You gotta have some awareness of what's going on in the meta, at least. And the meta is controlled by certain items. Like certain items like Ardent Sensor make heals just ridiculous. And her heals and her shields are ridiculous. So how are you getting out traded if you've got the meta on your side? But he is not. Lucian is sadly not meta. Once you start falling behind, as a Lucian, you're done, man. And then Jinx got so many free shots. So their team was just their team just knew a better sense of the general mechanics of the game. It's got fewer things to do with the matchups, but it doesn't help that Cho'Gath is versus a ranged champion like Ryze. It doesn't help that Ryze knows in a sort of an exacting way of how to dull out the damage and how much he can bind and all this other stuff, which was just amazing. Like, he knew just to walk out of the base, and I was just dumbfounded by this. Like, wow, it was like he just walked out of there. Like, one of us should have came by him and cut him off. But Lissandra and me stepped behind him, but then he just stepped the other way. There was no way we were going to catch him. And I also forgot about Ryze's speed up too. So Ryze, like, he has the ability to speed up, so he can farm safely that way. And you know, that was just crazy, because even if it wasn't Ryze and he didn't even have his speed up, he could have just walked that way and not worried about it. So he knew what to do. He knew just to walk away, and he knew the best way to walk away is away from us. And Cho'Gath wasn't near us either, so he was keeping tabs on Cho'Gath as well. So for the most part, skill is what won the game. No amount of me trying to, no amount of help that I would have performed as a champion that might have had a lot more early game influence, like a Lee Sin, a Vi, that would not have made the difference in my opinion. And he's got the early game, but I kind of thought that early game he wasn't making much of anything happen, and that's one of the reasons why he went for the dragon. But that was risky. But it paid off because no one checked, and their bot lane wasn't punished for it. So let's see. So I got his build. Lucian's going for IE, and then it looks like he's going for I'm not sure what he's going for here. Got his boots. She's already got a second item, and she's got a cull to farm the lane. So she's just in it for the farm. She's not in it for trading. And then the Janna's got her offensive items, Talisman of Ascension, and then you can use that for offense as well. Defense and offense. And Ardent Sensor, which is going to, prolong spells, increase healing and all that stuff, and it really an item that has transformed the meta, which will be gone soon when they start thinking about changes for the new season. And the Lissandra got Rod of Ages in addition to a Zanya's Hourglass. Zanya's Hourglass is not going to do anything for her versus the Malzahar. Malzahar does magic damage. This is not going to take away any magic damage. So there's an item issue here. There's more than just a skill set that's just mechanic based or general knowledge of the game. but now there's an item. There's an ill-conceived idea of how the Lysandra should itemize. Just a lot of general game knowledge that is not here. And me personally, I picked Ornn because I'm going for the late game, and he's a little clunky, but honestly, I should probably have chosen a champion that I'm a little better with. So maybe that's what these guys were trying to do. They were trying to understand certain matchups, they're trying to understand certain builds, they're still trying to learn. But that's everybody. Everybody's trying to learn, but the mistakes that I'm pointing out to you guys and to myself, I'm making them aware so I don't make the same mistakes, so I understand why we lost. And then we've got Rakan. He's a great initiate. They didn't have a winning lane in the beginning, but they turned it into a winning lane, and once they won the early game, then they've got it. He's got movement speed to get right up there. He's got either Oasis to keep, and then Ardent Sensor for heals. So he's got the right build, and he is terrifying later in game because he can just initiate and then go back to their champion to kind of like a Lee Sin, only if you could go back, only if you could use a war jump and then go back, and knock people up in the same time. The Jinx has got Infinity Edge, Rune on Hurricane. I would rather go something like Static Shiv when you've got Jinx, but maybe it's something I don't understand about ADCs. The Rise did a stupendous job. He's got cooldown reduction. That's why he was doing a lot of damage in quick succession with his spells coming back up. He's already got his Seraph's Embrace because he was allowed to farm all that time. And Abyssal Mask, which nearby enemy champions take 10% more damage. Damage to take into mana, spending mana restores. So he's got survivability. The more mana he uses, the higher health he gets. So he's got survivability with Abyssal Mask, and that seems like a good way to go versus the Cho'Gath, because the Cho'Gath, well, he's gonna use mana all day. And the Cho'Gath has a possibility of doing some damage to him, but to heal up that damage, Ryze has got his Abyssal Mask. And that's going to help him because it's going to give him health mana, and it's going to give him so much ability to live. So this is a great item build right here. Banshee's Veil to keep him even safer. So he's going a super safe route. So this guy is the best guy on their team, in my opinion. And it didn't really matter because the rest of our guys didn't compare to the other laners either. The Malzahar, got your standard Leander's Torment. You've got Rylai's Crystal Scepter, where it allows some survivability. And you can slow, but yeah, so you can slow people with your abilities and then land your ultimate, whatever you want to do. And Leander's Torment is just going to do tons of damage and provide armor penetration. And then you've got Kha'Zix, who has early game dominance. There's not a lot of champions that can go toe-to-toe like Kha'Zix can in the early game, so his spike is in the early game, and he looks like he's gonna continue his spike with Ravenous Hydra into Enchantment War, and it looks like he's going for a Black Cleaver. Now for this item, Ravenous Hydra, only if you have a lot of confidence in your champion, and only if you are ahead do you want to get something like this. If you're behind, you're not going to kill somebody in one fell swoop. But if you're ahead, you can use your combo, use your abilities, and then use your Ravenous Hydra as an auto attack reset and get that burst damage, and you have a good chance of just killing someone outright really quick with Kha'Zix. And if you have your wings as upgrades, then you can just jump to the next target. You can get your reset, much like Tristana's reset, when you use your rocket jump and kill somebody. So it's unfortunate, but lack of skill and champions that were used, they could have worked out, But for the most part, if you can't handle your champion, you know, maybe you're practicing or trying to figure out something. But for the most part, it was skill, and no amount of skill that was coming from me could change that. The most amount of skill that I saw was coming from the Rise, and I was dumbfounded, especially in mid lane, when I tried to flash away thinking I'd be okay, thinking I could take the damage. But his Q just went across the map and got me. Got me when I got my Q. So if you're gonna flash away from Rise, you want to flash at a specific time, but also you don't want to flash in a straight line. And also maybe don't be there to get hit by a Rise Bind, because man, with his cooldown reduction, he was able to just speed through his abilities. I was not prepared for that. Alright guys, it's a little bit of a bummer game, but hopefully we learned a fair share about how to deal with certain situations like this. Not all day you see a top Rise, and you know, the way that the game was going, it sucked, but there's gonna be games where you're gonna realize that it's not your fault. It's not really anybody's fault, because the skill is just underleveled. The enemy team skill is way up here. Let me change that. The enemy's up here, and for the most, if we're on average, we're down here. And maybe if the game would have been a little different if I would have charged in something that had a lot of early game influence, like a Vi, a Kha'zix, a Lee Sin. Probably not Lee Sin because I don't have much practice on him. But in the end, it does rely on people's abilities in the end. And the performance here just suggests to me that if I did a really good job carrying in the early game, we would fall off hard. And mostly because they're all late game. Jinx is late game, Rakan's late game, he's late game, he's mid game, and he's early game. So the majority is late game. And that's mid. I'm not sure about Gianna. I don't know if Gianna is late game. She's strong. Maybe she's strong throughout. Like Lyssandra's mid, and then 2 late game. But Cho'Gath was losing lane, which he should, but probably not as fast as he should. And for me, I just need, you know, a lot of farm, and I needed to itemize better versus the Rise and the Malzahar, who are doing the most damage, of which I needed to be worried about. And not even get Knight's Vow, because it would not allow my guys to survive because of their, you know, their limited abilities as champions, or mostly the limited skill that the players know how to use their abilities as those champions. So it's the lack of skill, and no matter how hard I try to carry that game, if I was someone who had a lot of early game initiation, a lot of early game influence, I would not be able to do anything. And it would have felt good to get in there early game and kill somebody. Would have been a little better, but anyway, it happens sometimes. Sometimes there is a skill gap that just can't be overcome. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Don't be bummed out. Tomorrow we'll have a win. We'll have a battle and a win. We'll play with some skilled players. So I will see you then. I will see you next time. Get it out of my face. Hi-oh.